On Wednesday night, the Philadelphia Catholic League playoffs start with what is the first round, technically. 7 versus 10, 8 versus 9. Let's start with Archbishop Carroll against Father Judge in the 8-9 matchup. And, well, we're going to do it for good reason. That's because Bob Long Sports and team will be in the building to broadcast that game. You heard it here first. We'll have the live stream of Archbishop Carroll against Father Judge. Will, the over-under for number of threes hit in that game? What do you think?
Well, last time it was 81. Had you chose 80, it would have been the under.
Of course, field goals, a 3-point field goals attempted there.
Yeah,
yes.
Absolutely. In that game was at Father Judge. This one will be at Archbishop Carroll. Two shooters gyms, if you ask people around the PCL. But two teams that really let the ball fly. When you think about Archbishop Carroll, one of their game plans is often we want to outshoot teams. We want to shoot more threes than the other team, and you'll certainly see that in their play style. Father Judge shoots a lot of threes as well. In their first matchup this year, Archbishop Carroll shot 49 threes, and they didn't win the game, believe it or not. Only 12 of them fell. The next game, 19 threes fall for Archbishop Carroll. So the game can really go either way. It's who's going to be hitting shots on that particular night.
No doubt about it. We were in the building when Archbishop Carroll played LaSalle on Friday night. They hit 19 threes. Will, I reached out and I said, guys like yourself, Huck Palmer, guys of that ilk, Josh Verlin, hey, where does 19 threes stand in the history of 32-point regulation basketball games in the Catholic League? Don't know that we got a definitive answer. John Brennan from Newman Goretti, he said that he thought that the Saints had done that a couple times back in 19 and 20. Part of me thinks it's been done, certainly, but it is still an impressive number. Guys that can let it fly. And as we talked about with assistant coach Mike Richards, it's all according to plan. It wasn't something that came with the head coach and the rest of that coaching staff, Francis Bowe and the rest of his staff. It's something that they adjusted to with this particular crop of players and this year's personnel. Well, we're here for our PCL playoff preview, and Bob Long is here with Mike Richards, assistant with Archbishop Carroll. And Mike, we're catching you in the act here.
Yes.
Right after a big win against LaSalle here on your home floor, 19 threes. And I don't know if you guys keep track of that, but that has to be right up near the top in program history, I'd imagine.
Yeah, we definitely keep track. It's something that is our identity this year, right? We're a small team. We're running a 6'4" wing and a 6'5" wing at the 5 in the posts for us. So in order to make things happen in the Philadelphia Catholic League, you got to take a look at what you got, and you got to make adjustments. And coming into this year, we said, look, we're going to go with a Davidson 5-out motion offense. Did some studying, talked to Coach McKillop over at Davidson, and we've implemented that, and it just speaks to, just Coach Bowe's willingness and ability to kind of change things each year based off what the roster gives you, and just really blessed and thankful to be working under him. And you saw it tonight, the way that these kids have bought into sharing the ball, being unselfish, setting screens, things that a lot of teenagers don't want to do these days in basketball, and they bought into doing it. And to that being said, we live by the 3, die by the 3. I wish we would have hit 19 threes against Judge the other night. But look, like I told you before the game, we needed to go back to the drawing board, clean some things up from a discipline perspective, offensively spacing, and that showed tonight. So hats off to Coach Bowe and the boys for making that happen.
Couple of follow-up questions on that. Bob McKillop, so what's that connection, or did you just reach out and he was nice enough to?
Yeah, so when you do this long enough, the fraternity of basketball, and you meet people, that are recruiting your guys. Years back, Matt McKillop was recruiting one of the players I was coaching at the time, Kerry Angeline, who is now a professional football player. He was a 1,300-point scorer, Downingtown East, and played for team final with Lamar Stevens, all those guys. Davidson was actually recruiting him because he was such a good shooter at 6'7", and even though he was already basically almost committed to USC at the time, he was just that good of a shooter and that good of a scorer. So I made the connection then, and then I've stayed in touch with him throughout the years, and now he's the head coach. And Bo and I were looking at this roster kind of coming into this year, and Fran he does such a great job, like I said earlier, of saying, okay, every year, what's my roster? What can I do best with that roster? Versus just sticking to something that maybe doesn't work for the exact group of players that they have. And that just speaks to his humility and his ability to adapt. So he not only put in that offense, but then also the full court pressure, which you saw tonight, right?
Yes,
That was another thing, through relationships. He knew Coach Tobin Anderson down at FDU, who just got the job, and Fran reached out to him, gave him a call, talked to him about what has made him successful going from St. Thomas Aquinas at the Division II level and moving up to Division I, and it was that pressure. So between the two of those things, and just a great senior class like you saw tonight, what I like to call, what we like to call everyday guys, right? First time in Coach Bo's tenure here at Carroll where he's had a senior class of 4 guys that are basketball only, dedicated every day, 365. They just put in the work all year round, and then that is now going to build to the next point, right? And we got a big test coming up here in the Philadelphia Catholic League playoffs and Roman on Sunday. So,
over the course of this show, I think we're probably going to say this about 12 times, but I'll say it to you. There will be 10 teams when the balls go up on Wednesday that have a chance to win the Catholic League title, a chance to go to the Palestra. Every one of these teams in this league that qualify for the playoffs are really good, and I'm sure you guys recognize that. And you guys are one of those teams, somewhere between 7 and 10, that has every shot to go to the Palestra.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, when you look at this league coming into the season, there was a lot of excitement across the city, and not only the city, but regionally and down all the way down the East Coast about the Philadelphia Catholic League, which always has that power and that palatability of when you say the Philadelphia Catholic League, it means something, right? And I think historically everybody will say, and what all the folks throughout the city will say is that the Philadelphia Catholic League has always had talent, has always had great teams 1 through 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think what has differentiated this league more than ever before is just its depth, 1 through 14. I mean, you even look at a team like tonight, LaSalle, Coach Mike McKee, one of the best coaches in the state historically, and just a mastermind of the game. Like I was joking around with you, it's like, hey, you better come ready to play a Mike McKee team because you know he's going to cover the spread no matter what team he has, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you speak to them, they could probably go run the table in District 1 6A. That's how good they are, and they're not going to make the playoffs in the Catholic League. So,
yep.
And then you look at tonight, the matchup of Devon Prep versus Bonner. If you would have told somebody that Devon Prep and Bonner would be playing to a winner gets in game on February 8th, you would say, get the heck out of here, right?
Right.
I mean, both of those teams loaded with talent, great coaches, right?
Billy's done a nice job in
Jay
first year.
Fish, one may call him
Yeah.
James Naismith at this point, the way he's reinvented the game, right?
Absolutely right.
Just that just speaks to the depth. And I think that's what's exciting about the playoffs right now is that if you look 1 through 14 on this list, but let's just say the 1 through 12, right, with the Devon and Bonner matchup. I mean, look at these coaches, right, and the blood, sweat, equity that these head coaches and their staffs put in all year round. I mean, if you're on staff in the Philadelphia Catholic League, that means you're a savage. I mean, you're talking about. Let's just look at this right now. You got Carl Argyle, right? Yeah, I mean McNesby. We're talking Zaglinski. We're talking Moscow. We're talking Harrigan. We're talking Boca Chica. We're talking Francis Bowe. We're talking Nemitz. We're talking Rowntree, right? Like that's wild. Like great coaches, great coaching staff, and I think that's one thing Fran and I have tried to do in the league is just kind of bring back that fraternity of it. Like rather than having that spirit of jealousy, just really just building relationships and speaking highly of these guys, right? When we're talking with our players and others, we always speak highly of these guys and the way they do it because they do it their way. And that's what's beautiful about the Philadelphia Catholic League, and the players are just amazing. When you talk about the talent that's in this league right now, I mean, good gosh. I mean, you have a Baylor commit, right? You have a 4-star, 6'10" monster, right, in Thomas Sorber. You have now I think he just got upgraded to 5-star Jalil Bethia, who's just a killer, right?
Yes, he is.
With offers from West Coast to East Coast, UCLA, you name it. It's
couple
just
of St. Joe's guys on Roman.
Oh my gosh!
Jackson, the sophomore, Sultan
it's ridiculous. X is arguably look at what X has done.
1,000-point scorer from last weekend.
From being a starter as a freshman with that group to now, I mean, this is amazing. We're going to talk on Monday night as coaches about okay, well, who's first team all league and who's MVP? I mean, shoot. That's going to be the hardest conversation ever. And then St. Joe's Prep, the young guys is stepping up as sophomores, right? And then you got Big Tristan. Listen, get your popcorn ready. The PCL playoffs are going to be great, and we can't wait to be a part of it.
One key for you guys heading into the playoffs, and what are your expectations out of your guys starting with the play-in round, 7-10, 8-9, wherever you fall on Wednesday?
Look, basketball is a very simple game, Bob. And you look at Princeton, right, which since Mitch has gotten there and his staff, Brett McConnell, they have a slogan at Princeton, and it's make shots. It's simple as that. That's been our season. If we make shots, we're going to win the game. If we don't, we're going to have to find other ways to win, and then we need to get creative and we need to muck it up, right? So if we make shots, we can beat anybody on any given night, and I think our history of the schedule this year has shown that with wins over Wood, wins over St. Joe's Prep, which are monster wins, and then some losses, some tough losses where we didn't make shots, right? Like at Father Judge, which is a hard place to play. I think they're undefeated at home this year. Roan Tree does a great job with a great group, and we didn't make shots, 12 for 49, which is ridiculous for a 36-minute overtime game with no shot clock, but you got to make shots if you're Archbishop Carroll. If we make shots, we have a chance to win, and we'll see where we go.
Last year, and last question for you. Last year, you guys thought you were done, and then all of a sudden you got the call, and you're going to the playoffs. You make a run all the way to the state semifinal. Those 4 seniors you talked about, and some depth, and some veterans on this team. What did that run mean, and are you seeing the dividends being paid now?
Yeah, I just think it speaks to just the bond that was built from that experience, right? And there's been articles talking about it. Fran always articulates it as, he's been doing this for a while at a high level, and Fran says that was his most memorable time as a coach. And even for me as well, like it was just that bonding, sitting on the bus for 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours even, and just seeing the kids just really build that bond together. And I think that translated to this year where that ball is just being shared, and it's no like, hey, me. Our slogan this year has been always us, right? Sometimes you, sometimes me, always us. And I think that's what translated them, this influx of freshmen and young guys. We're trying to teach that to them, right? And it's wild when you come into this as a 14-year-old, right? Like the Philadelphia Catholic League. So our seniors have really tried to pave the way for them.
Thank you for doing this. I appreciate your time.
No, thank you for everything you do in the Philadelphia area, man. Anytime the name Bob Long comes up, everybody speaks highly of it, and I think there's a lot of guys like yourself in the Philadelphia area that really make the Philadelphia basketball a special place. So hopefully we can replicate that and we can make shots next week on Wednesday night. Are you going to be here?
That's the hope.
I hope you're here, because if you're here, we make 19 threes, so we need you to make shots. You want to come talk to our guys before the game, maybe? All right. Thank you, Bob. Appreciate it, man. All right. Have a good one, man.
Thanks for doing this. Mike Richards, assistant for Archbishop Carroll. What a job. A star in the making. If he ever decides to give up coaching, he's got a spot in TV, I think, anytime he wants it will. What was your takeaway from Coach Richards, speaking on behalf of Francis Bowe and the rest of the Carroll staff?
Well, I think that's something that's so commendable, and Mike Richards talked a little bit about how commendable it is the idea of looking at your roster and saying, okay, we don't have to have a set offense. We need the offense that works best for this team. That's something, some coaches, they create a system. Other coaches kind of adapt. And it seems like Archbishop Carroll is kind of in the adaptive crew in terms of that.
I think so. It's basketball of the future, right? It's playing 5 guys beyond the three-point line. Everybody on the floor can shoot it. Talking to Coach Richards before the LaSalle game that we broadcast, he talked about the fact that, yes, it's going to be difficult for us to send Blake Deegan or someone else in that sort of 6'3", 6'4" range to match up against a Sultan Alawale or a Sharif Jackson or someone like that. Well, guess what? It's also difficult for those guys to come out and guard Blake Deegan from beyond the arc, and that's a competitive advantage that Archbishop Carroll looks to thwart, from an offensive standpoint. They look to make difficult on the opposing defense.
Yeah, and in their last matchup against Father Judge, Anthony Lilly, Father Judge's starting center, only played 8 minutes. Father Judge and Coach Chris Rowntree, they had to make that adjustment. DJ Morton Rivera ended up playing 27 minutes in that contest, a freshman who comes off the bench. So teams have to adjust when they play against a Archbishop Carroll, because we say that they have 5 guys. It's not 5 guys. I mean, they move guys in and out. A Seamus Rogers will come off the bench. A Dixon will come off the bench. A Rawls will come off the bench. And it's 8 to 9 guys that can knock down threes. It's really, really dangerous.
And then a guy, Dean Coleman Newsom, who I still don't think gets nearly enough credit here in this league for what he can do. He hit 3 threes against LaSalle on Friday night, but I don't think anybody would necessarily say that's the purest form of his game. He can do it, but that makes him so effective. If he can provide that threat to shoot from beyond the arc, Now you need to come out and guard him. Well, he's so dangerous getting to the basket, so strong in the lane and can finish, and also a willing and able passer. And when you have 4 other guys spotting up as the defense collapses on a Dean Coleman Newsome drive, that's a team that nobody wants to play right now.
Yeah, and in their last game against Father Judge, we keep talking about it, but it is important. Dean Coleman Newsome, 18 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists. I think that pretty much says all you need to know about Dean Coleman Newsome. Can score. He hit 4 threes, but a great rebounder. He's very physical. Bob has seen a whole lot of Philadelphia Catholic League basketball. And last year, I think back to a game when it was LaSalle versus Archbishop Carroll. Not many people matched up physically with a Sam Brown. Dean Coleman Newsome absolutely did and may have won that matchup. Did win that matchup because they won the game. So that kind of speaks to the player that Dean Coleman Newsome is.
Let's talk about a key for this game. 8 versus 9, Archbishop Carroll, Father Judge. It was an overtime win for Father Judge over Archbishop Carroll. You talked a lot about the specifics of that game. That was just a week or 2 ago. Now Archbishop Carroll, they get to host by virtue of their 1-game lead in the win column over Father Judge. What's the key and what are we looking for?
Well, like Coach Richards says, it comes down to making shots, and I think it is the team that knocks down more three-pointers who wins this game. Archbishop Carroll is going to want to come out and shoot as many three-pointers as they can. And if they're not falling, it could be a long night for Archbishop Carroll. Can they compete because they have Blake Deegan's a very versatile player. We think of him as a shooter, but he's 6'5" with good moves. Obviously, Jake West, a really good point guard. Dean Coleman Newsome, one of the best in the game. He's probably going to be a first or second team guy in the Philadelphia Catholic League. So you have all this talent for Archbishop Carroll, but it's going to come down to who knocks down more shots. Archbishop Carroll shot threes 49 times against Father Judge in that first matchup.
Yeah.
They didn't make more threes than Father Judge.
Yeah, and Judge only shot about 30.
Yeah.
And that was certainly a difference in that game. And as we'll talk about momentarily here with Chris Rowntree, he recognizes that while Father Judge got the best of Archbishop Carroll the first time around, one, it was on Father Judge's home floor. Undefeated Father Judge on their home floor this year, as we found out in that interview. But now they have to go on the road. They don't expect Archbishop Carroll to miss as many threes as they did. They expect them to be ready. And Chris Rowntree says, hey, we need to step up our performance on Wednesday night as well.
Rowntree is our guest here on the Philadelphia Catholic League playoff preview show. And Chris, first off, congrats on a great year. Anybody that qualified for the playoffs in this 14-team league is a heck of a basketball team, as you well know. I've never seen depth like this in this league, with some wonderful years in the past, of course. What did you see night in and night out in the league this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think the league is, I've been in coaching now. I think this is my 10th or 11th year in the league between Wood and Judge. And I think, like you just said, the depth of the league this year, anybody could beat anybody on any given night, it seemed like. And, you've seen that in the last couple of days even. Playoff position and seeding wasn't done until Sunday. So it was really deep this year. There's a lot of talent level. There's a lot of great coaches in our league, which makes the depth of the league and the toughness of the league so great.
Well, and you've seen that, not to say coaching trees per se, but John Moscow, who you worked for many years at Archbishop Wood, now you take over your own program, your alma mater, second-year head coach. But even prior to that, John came from many years under Carl Aragale at Newman Goretti, and it just kind of begets more and more solid coaching in this league. And from your standpoint, your second year back at your alma mater, what has that been like?
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, school support has been great. The alumni support has been great. Trying to figure out how we build our culture in the right way, but also, really trying to get wins under our belt, because part of building your culture is getting wins. And it's not easy, day in, day out. I think the year before I took over, they might have won 1 or 2 games. We showed improvement last year. We got the 4 wins. We had a chance in our last game last year to get to the playoffs, and we didn't win. And I think, this year we talked about really defending our home court this year. And if we defended our home court and won our games at home, we would make the playoffs and then see what happens to get into the playoffs, and that's what we did. We went 7-0 at home. We improved, two more wins in our league, and we competed. I think we had chances in other games that we didn't win, but we're happy with our growth this year. We're not satisfied, but we're happy, and we feel like we're taking the right steps to hopefully at one point become an upper echelon team in our league.
And you have a core of guards that are just fantastic. Kyle Jones, just steps off the page for you. He jumps off the page with what he can do. Kavar Kennedy, a youngster. Derek Morton Rivera as well. Ernest Shelton, Laquan Bird. I mean, I just reeled off 5 names just like that, and every one of them can knock it down from deep, stretch the floor, drive to score, drive to kick. From a spacing standpoint, that has to give you a nice luxury as their head coach.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice if somebody doesn't have it going that day, you can turn and try and find the next guy to get it going, which is always nice. There's been nights where maybe Shelton hasn't been on, and DJ or Mir has stepped up and coming off the bench, or Kyle had a tough game. Kavar steps up, and again we can turn to Mir or one of our other guys off the bench. So we have a lot of confidence in those 5 guys. Plus Mike McCusker, who is a returning guy that maybe doesn't shoot it as well, but he does a lot of the little things. So we're confident in our 6 guard rotation that we have, that they can compete at a high level, talent wise. But also they performed this year. So I think every game somebody different has stepped up, and it's been really good for us.
And then a couple of bigs as well. Anthony Lilly, Chris Brennan have been with the program for a while. When you play that kind of 4-out offense and they're the one big, and I know both of them are skilled in their own right, but how did both of them find their way in your guard heavy offense?
Yeah, so I mean, Chris has been great because he's been able to play it on the wing a little bit for us too. So if one of them other guys is in foul trouble, or in terms of not having it going that day, he stepped up. But we really have 3 guys playing and competing for 32 minutes on that. I'll call it that big spot that
Right.
we play, but we really play a 5-out usually. But Teron Pete has been great for us too in the last couple games. He's gotten his legs under him now from football, and he really gives us a lot of energy and things like that. And then, Anthony, who's actually hurt right now, we're hoping to get him back on Wednesday, but he does all the little things for us in terms of screening and rebounding and clean some stuff up defensively inside for us. So they've been great. I mean, it's tough because it is 3 guys competing for 32 minutes on that one spot that we play, but whenever their name's been called, they've been ready to go.
And just to take a step back, because I want to make sure I heard this right. Did you say you haven't lost a home game this year?
We haven't. We went 7-0. We won our 6 PCL games, and then we only played one other home game. But we did. We went 7-0 at home this year.
That's incredibly impressive. And I got over to Bill Fox Court there at Father Judge when you guys played LaSalle, and you guys scored 80 points. And not to say you weren't breaking a sweat, but you were running the offense the way it was intended, generating open looks. You weren't forcing triples, and a lot of good things happen when that's the case. From a standpoint of now you are going to play, and one of those teams that you beat as well, by the way, Archbishop Carroll, who you now go on the road to play in the first round of the playoffs here. But what stands out to you about Archbishop Carroll, and then the difference between playing that game at home versus on the road?
Yeah, I think we're kind of a spitting image of each other when you look at how we play.
I think so too. Yeah.
I said to Francis before we played on Tuesday night, whoever hits more threes is going to win the game. And I think we hit 13 and they hit 12. And we shot a little better that night than they did. I think they were 12 for 49, and we were 14 or 13 of 30. So we both teams like to get up threes. Both teams like to get up and down in transition. So I feel like we're a spitting image of each other. I think if you look at the number of threes shot between both teams, we're 1 and 2 most likely in our league. So we get up a lot of shots. But I think the difference could be, who's they're going to be comfortable playing at home. For us, we haven't won a true road game all year, so that's part of the maturity of us that we've talked about over the last 2 weeks. So, how do we go on the road and keep our composure and play the same way that we do at home. And I think, that we'll be comfortable in their gym. We'll have to make a couple of adjustments to not give them as many open looks, because I don't think they'll miss the open looks that they might have missed in our gym. So it's just going to be a matter of, playing the way that we do. They're going to play the way that they do, but really who can make them a couple small tweaks and adjustments, being that we just played last Tuesday and we're now playing a week later.
Yep. Well, I have good news, and I think you might know this anyway, but we're going to be out there broadcasting that game at Archbishop Carroll. Tough one to pass up with those types of offensive styles going at it. Actually, last time we were at Archbishop Carroll, just on Friday night, they hit 19 threes, which I don't really have a sense for where that stands historically. And I know that you guys have every capability to do the same. So it'll be a shootout, and I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, you're not looking past that game, but you have this play-in game on Wednesday, if you will, first round, and then the quarterfinals would be on Friday, and that would be either Newman Goretti or Roman Catholic that you would see. What's the challenge in a 1-day rest, 2-day turnaround? If you are fortunate enough to get to that opportunity, and then you'd be one game away from the Palestra at that point.
Yeah, I think for us, it's refocusing after you win a playoff game on Wednesday night. How do you refocus and practice on Thursday, and then to get prepared to play for Friday? I don't think in terms of a stamina perspective, we play 8-9 guys, so I don't think from a stamina perspective, I think we'll be okay. And we've done it this year. I think part of the way that I scheduled, and my coaches called me crazy a little bit, but we played numerous back-to-backs. So, just 2 weeks ago, right before Carroll, we played Friday night at the prep and got on a bus and went down to Virginia and played O'Connell, and then came back and played Tuesday. We did that earlier in the year where over Christmas break, we played on a Friday or Saturday, got on a bus, and then went to our Christmas tournament and played the next day. So, we've done some of those back-to-back things. We've done it earlier in the year, playing in Del Greco's event on a Friday night, and then playing in John's event on a Saturday. So we feel like we're okay stamina-wise. We've done it. It's just going to be a matter of, refocusing. I think, when you talk about Roman and Newman, they've been the gold standard over the years in our leagues, and, they've really won. And you can probably add Wood up into there. They won recent championships, but it's been Roman Newman for the most part, right? So how do you get your guys confident that, you can go into South Philly and play on a Friday night in a playoff game and get that W? But, again, we can't look past Carroll. We gotta take the business at hand. We're the underdogs. We're going on the road. So, it's just that mentality of a mature team that we gotta figure out, and that's part of the next step in the culture of a program.
And you mentioned culture of the program. It's just your second year here. It's a wonderful accomplishment to make the playoffs, but I know that there's a larger goal, and the building of a program, it takes time. But you've kind of taken 2 steps, right? I mean, you guys have done a great job putting yourselves in a position where you have talent, culture, and execution. You've executed to the level to make the playoffs. As Chris Rowntree looks at the next 2, 3, 5 years of the tenure, what's the goal, and what would be a good next step or couple of steps for Father Judge basketball?
Yeah, I mean, we want to compete at the highest level. I think that's every coach in our league's goal, and how you get there and what your resources are to get there, and all of that. And we want to get there. So we got to continue to build. I think this off season was the first off season that we really got player development wise. We didn't really get that last year, getting the job late. So we were more about, how we're going to play and things like that. But I think now that you have guys in the program that understand your expectations, that understand, what you expect every day in practice, what you expect in off-season workouts, now that they've gone through all of that, I think that continues to build. And then we got to get talent. I mean, look, at the end of the day, talent wins championships. You can talk about X's and O's and all of that, but we got to hopefully become a destination where, people want to come and be a part of a growing program. And, I go back to Wood, and, Wood didn't really win much before, John got there. And John, it took one guy or two guys to really turn it. And, by the fourth year, with Colin, we won that championship. And once you get a championship, or once you're steadily going to the palestra, it kind of steamrolls from there. People want to be a part of something from there. So it's just continuing to build, and like I said, I mean, we want to get to the upper echelon of our league. We know it's going to take a bit to get there, but we feel like we're heading in the right direction, and got to continue to improve. So
From my seat, I agree. You guys are directionally at a great place. Nobody wants to play you, Coach. I can tell you that right now. The way you guys can shoot it, nobody wants to play you. And on my end, I just can't wait to see you on Friday. Oh, now on Wednesday night for that 8-9 game against Archbishop Carroll. Should be a wonderful contest, and we'll follow you the rest of the way also. So thanks for doing this, and we'll see you on Wednesday night.
Great, thanks, Bob.
Chris Rowntree does an excellent job with that program. Also was nice enough to give us about 13 minutes of his time today to load into this show, and I think provide a whole lot of context, because Father Judge is taking steps. You and I saw it. We broadcast a game with our good buddy Bruce Badgley out in District 3 country against one of his District 3 teams, Central York. Kavar Kennedy hits the game-winning three at the buzzer to win that game, and they had a very, very strong Catholic League season. What will really be the key is there's a clear delineation. Undefeated at home, haven't been able to win those Catholic League games on the road. Some of the tougher games came on the road, as well as the standings would indicate at least. But Father Judge can shoot anywhere. I mean, that's a neutral site game technically against Central York, but they win that one with hot shooting and key defensive stops, and then the big play in the big moment. But what's the key for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Since we saw them against Central York, I think we've seen the development of kind of more plays being run for an Ern Sheldon, as well as the development of a DJ Morton Rivera coming off the bench, a freshman, acclimating himself to this type of competition. So I've been really impressed by DJ Morton Rivera, and I like that Father Judge is kind of running more plays to get an Ern Sheldon open shots, because, man, can that kid shoot. Finally, I guess my key to the game is going to be Father Judge is going to shoot the ball a lot. Can they work to get the best shot, right? Ern Sheldon, if he's catching, it's probably going up. They have shooters all around, so it's going to be whether or not they get the best shot.
I think so. I think it's which team is patient enough. I think these defenses are good, but they're offensive mismatches that both teams can really exploit. Those wings going up against each other, right? A Lilly, a Brennan going up against a Deegan will be a matchup worth watching. Oh, by the way, as we mentioned, we're going to be broadcasting that game. Myself, you, and our great colleague Danny Rovey will be there to broadcast that contest from Archbishop Carroll. It'll be a great way to get the Philadelphia Catholic League playoffs started. And I don't even know how you'd handicap it. We're calling the game. We won't make a pick, but it feels like maybe with the home court advantage, Carroll may have that advantage, but it truly comes down to who's getting those puppies organized, as Bill Raff would say, right? Who's getting set and shooting in rhythm versus forcing deep threes. I think the team that runs the offense well and doesn't rush and gets the right types of inside-out type looks for three, it's going to be the team that wins.
Yeah, totally agreed. And something, they both have good floor generals to kind of get them organized, whether it be Kavar Kennedy or Kyle Jones in Father Judge's case. And Jake West and Dean Coleman Newsom, both guys that handle the ball for Carroll. So it's going to be, while they're going to get a ton of threes up, I think both teams are pretty disciplined. It'll be fun to watch.
Can't wait. That is, Wednesday night. Wednesday night, 7 p.m. The girls, by the way, will start their quarterfinals on Thursday. Looking forward to those as well. Archbishop Carroll also hosting a game for their girls, and that'll be on Thursday. So big time and good times to be an Archbishop Carroll Patriot.